The moon makes light so cool at night. The luminaries, they all rotate around you. From the point of truth, where is the
Alright, that is Where is the Curve by Chief Crow and the Flat Earth Worms. We are live. Today is September the 7th, 2023. Live notifications have just gone out, and we will be joined momentarily by, well, it looks like WOOZ News, who put on his nice shirt, which means maybe we should do video. But generally on this channel we're audio only, but maybe we can make an exception next time. Maybe next time we'll get on camera. I'll have to set mine up. This allows us to take calls. I mean, I believe we can take calls if it's audio only, but I don't want to test anything on the fly. I want to make sure everything goes down without a hitch, because the most important thing here is the information. And WOOZ News was recently purged from YouTube. We here at the Infinite Plane Society know very well what that's like, to put all your time and energy, in his case, years of editing, very nuanced. This is such a nuanced takedown of January 6th. And for YouTube to just say, yeah, we removed it. Yeah, we burned down your library. So he's been through that recently. And if you want to support him, I put a link to support WOOZ News in the news alerts. So if you got your newsletter with a live alert, there's a link in there if you want to support WOOZ News. I also sent out a link to watch his latest video. He's the one who put out Everything Wrong with the Capitol Riot in 21 Minutes, which is a very succinct breakdown of what was a simulated riot. Nobody died, nobody cried. And look, and we can ask, you can ask questions in the chat, and I will 100% relay them. But one of the questions I want to ask is it even possible to pretend, I mean, is it even possible that Trump doesn't know it was staged? This is a very important point here, because a lot of the people think that Trump was wronged when, by all indications, it would seem that he would be a participant in this as a leader of the controlled opposition. I don't see how he was tricked. I don't even know if that's a possibility. Yeah, he was just going to march up there peacefully, and Ray Epps incited a bunch of people, and they just turned it all into a peaceful protest, BLM style. No, that's not what happened. WOOZ News breakdown shows you, and I'll have him break down in detail from his perspective. And then, of course, the follow up to Everything Wrong with the Capitol Riot in 21 minutes. His new one, which is Everything Wrong with the Capitol Riots in 889 angles. But again, we're going to be working on bringing him in here in just a moment. So if you want to start asking questions in the chat, I'll start writing them down here in my notebook. And the link that he can, let me go ahead and give a link. So if you want to share this stream, the best link is going to be youtube.com/user@infiniteplane radio. Infinite Plane Radio. Now I have Infinite Plane Society, but that one was banned. They banned 3 of my channels leading up to the arrival of the documentary crew on Monday. Okay, I believe. Okay, there we go. I just posted a link in chat if you want to share that out. It's youtube.com/infiniteplane radio. Joined by Not Shocked says Trump knows all about kayfabe. He loves it. He lives it. Yeah, I was just watching a Donald Trump celebrity roast, and he was in the club up until he was president, and then the script changed. But did they really all change on him all at once? Are these celebrities even politically aware enough to know the difference between what Trump was espousing and what the Democrats were espousing? No, it's all an act. Joined here by Evolvement. Mizell, thank you for joining. We are going to be getting a call here from the WOOZ News channel here shortly, which is, again, the channel that did the most extensive and detailed and nuanced breakdown of January 6th. And shout out to Ashley Babbitt, who's not dead. If you pined over her, if you were outraged over that, you've been had. They got your loosh. And look, I don't think that it's a virtue signaling. I mean, people signal, like I'm virtuous because I care about this, like Madhu kids with Maui. And sometimes I wonder if it's just not just virtue signaling here. But people attach themselves to these martyr stories emotionally. And as Mark Twain said, it's easier to fool a man than convince him he's been fooled. When someone has been fooled, when they have been tricked by their own emotions, emotional appeal, overriding their cognitive functioning, which happens all the time, it's very hard to wrestle those beliefs away from people. So when they have a martyr like Ashley Babbitt or vaporized Dew Kids in Maui, it's very difficult to get them to let that go. Impossible, actually. Mostly it's impossible. I use the phrase Sandy Hookers to describe the people who grandstand on top of bodies of hypothetical dead kids. And I still maintain that fake dead kids' lives don't matter. But what about fake dead patriots? Like Roseanne Boylan, the one who got trampled while carrying the sign that said, "Don't tread on me." What about, again, Ashley Babbitt? So we are joined here. Infinite Plane Radio. Is this WOOZ News?
Tamar.
Awesome. And how do we refer to
Hey,
you?
it's Wooz.
WOOZ.
You can call me Rafa.
Rafa.
You can call me Wooz or Rafa, whatever you want. I don't care.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you very much for joining. A lot of people have been looking forward to it. And
That's great.
I pointed out that you were recently censored from YouTube. Is that what happened?
My entire channel was banned, I think 2 days ago. Yeah, 2 days ago. No strikes either. Before we begin, how is my audio quality?
That's what I'm waiting for, some feedback, and I believe it sounds just fine. You sound good on my end. And
Okay, great. It was a little crackly, but in the beginning, but so far so good.
Yeah, that was Skype just rolling in here. So we have a lot of people in the chat, and a lot of people, like for example, Tommy Jones says, "The director's cut was great. I posted a link on a political chat site of your Everything Wrong with the Capitol Riots Act 2. So a number of people here have already watched your follow-up piece, and everyone here knows about Everything Wrong with the Capitol Hill Riots in 21 minutes. But for anyone out there who hasn't heard about it, the first video, how long did it take you to put it together, first of all? Like, how much work went into that thing?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. And you went frame by
Yeah,
frame and you analyzed things with the timestamps. And so, what is your overall
uh-huh.
conclusion?
That
Like,
it's a honeypot. It's a honey trap. Are we live right now?
yes, we are live right now, and we have
Oh, just kidding. Okay.
no, we have people rolling in from basically
Okay.
YouTube,
It's
my
just
own.
another false flag, another psyop. Just added to the list. I
Okay,
mean,
now
anyone could see that this was an attempt to get all these great patriots to come to DC to then mix them up with these actors, and now we're seeing them put in jail. Silence the political dissenters who dare, question the state of American democracy or any democracy really.
right, exactly. That's exactly what it looks like, a honeypot. And I have a question: is it even remotely possible
Sure.
that Donald Trump himself has been tricked that he doesn't know, or would he necessarily have to be a part of it?
Are you asking my personal opinion?
Yeah, in your personal opinion, based on your assessment of
I,
this.
I, I think I think this is just another ruse on the American people. I think that this happens throughout centuries where you get a, a, a political hero, a political Jesus that people fall in love with, and they're completely blindsided by it, and nothing gets better. It gives the illusion that things are happening, that somebody up there is doing right by us. And so I never thought he was a good guy, nor did I think any of them are good guys. So I'm not a red or a blue. I don't think that American people have anything in common with this man, with this billionaire. Uh,
Now, you said you're not red or
and I took a
blue.
lot of stuff up.
Like,
I'm not a red or a blue. I'm a nothing. I'm a truth seeker.
okay, okay, and that's probably why you're
I'm not a
objective.
Democrat or a Republican.
Yeah, 'cause I don't think a
Exactly.
Democrat could be objective. I don't think a Republican can be objective here in this instance.
Exactly. Exactly. So once people stop, when they, like I said, if they could just put down their teams and see the bigger picture of what's going on here, we need to all come together to put an end to this. Just like in Jesus' time where you had the people who were devout to the Romans or the people who were devout to the priests or the rabbis. And nothing was ever, and then you had Jesus going to these different villages. And none of them liked that either. The priests, the rabbis, the Romans especially, and then come to find out, well, not to come to find out, but again, 2,000 years later, who put Jesus to death? The government did.
Fascinating how
So
even
people
today
keep,
they're calling Trump Moses. They're referring to him as like basically as Jesus. Like he has been put in that role. You're absolutely right.
which just bothers me so much. Like, if these people only knew who this guy really was, or any of them, if they had any idea of what was really going on. But I understand that a lot of people who would subscribe to this video or this channel or even donate are Republicans. And, you know, I took a lot of stuff about Trump out of it because it is about Trump, but it's not about Trump, actually. It's about the whole event. That's like saying, 9/11 is about Bush when
Hmm.
it's not. It's about all of the pieces.
Good point. You're absolutely. That's probably
So,
that's a great way to look at it. This is not about Trump any
and
more
just
than
look at the
9/11 was
timeline.
Bush.
Look,
Uh huh.
it's just like I'm not taking the vaccine, but who rolled out the vaccine under the Operation Warp Speed? Who rolled out the 5G Data Broadband Protection Act on the 27th, just a few days after it was declared a pandemic? Who signed the CARES Act a full year when it was after it was introduced into the House, before COVID came onto the scene? Like, this stuff is so easy, it's so elementary, and they put out these different stories every single day, and they get these Twitter people with a blue check mark that say, what are your thoughts on this? And then people go and they put their thoughts about it. And so this is just more and more data collection. Stop answering those damn questions, y'all. Like, every time, what do you think about it? Are you going to get the vaccine this time around? What are your thoughts? Let us know how you really feel. It's just a new way of data collection. I can't believe people can't see through this at this point.
Right. And you make a good point about how if you were too harsh on Trump, it might turn off some people because what the Republicans did with Trump, I think, is they turned conspiracy theorists into a voting bloc. And they brought them all in under the promise that they were going to take care of the deep state, which just seems like it was a euphemism for Democrats. And this is one of the big problems is they think
Right.
it's like it's us versus them. It's like, you know what? Both of them are against you. Team Hillary, Team
Yeah.
Trump, it's the same team behind the scenes.
Right. Well, under their codex, under their Magi codex, you know, their rules of magic, they have to be forthcoming about their operations or what they're doing. And I believe that, you know, we were talking about Epstein 10 years before anybody was talking about Epstein. We were talking about Larry Sinclair, you know, 10 years before. Well, I don't know if it's been 10 full years now, maybe. Right when it happened, it's just like, y'all, where were y'all when this was going on? Even with the NSA program, you know, and you had Edward Snowden coming out and talking about it, I'm like, bro, we've been talking about this for years now, and they make it seem like this is brand new.
Yes. And I find it kind of difficult to get through to
Go ahead.
people that they can fake stuff on this level. People think it's false flags, like, oh, Ray Epps instigated a riot that turned out to be a real riot. And it's like, that's not what happened here. Can you explain how this
It's
riot
just-
was just.
It's just, sure, it's just another little thing for the peasants to nibble on. Oh, here's Ray Epps, and nibble on this for a month. And then everybody's like, we want to know more about Ray Epps. You're missing the bigger picture. If you just get focused on this one character, they're the ones who put out the little nugget or the little crumb for you to nibble on.
Oh, yes.
Take back the whole damn cake, the gluten-free cake.
Well, it was like
Eat
Baked
the bigger
Alaska.
pie.
He was like, this is a Fed, this is a Fed. And I'm like, wait a minute here. How do I know this isn't a Fed calling that guy a Fed to plant the seeds that this is going to be Fed instigated? And people don't play that level of chess with this game that they're, and it is like an alternate reality game when it comes to these psychological operations. And people took the bait. This was a big honeypot, as you said.
Yeah, they got people like my friend Alan Ops that are wrapped up in this, who never went into the Capitol, who went there. I support everybody who went there to see Trump because they believe it was their intention. They believe that this man was going to do something about this swamp, about this satanic swamp, even though they don't realize that he's a part of this satanic swamp. It's their intention. And you had thousands of them come out there. And some of these people are, that's why we have all of our actors scattered about the Capitol, is to influence them so that we can peg them and put them in jail. So the next time they pull some shit, excuse me, I don't know if we're allowed to
Oh
swear
yeah,
on here,
please.
but,
No, I'm a free speech absolutist. I've been banned hundreds of
Great.
times. I've sued Twitter over being banned. I mean YouTube. And this thing of
Oh,
banning
maybe you can help me sue Twitter, or excuse me,
YouTube.
maybe you
YouTube,
can help me
Google.
get my channel back because what's that?
YouTube, Google, absolutely,
Huh?
because they didn't give you a strike, no warning. They just pulled your channel. That's new.
Yes, they did. Yeah, no strikes. I had quite a few warnings, which is interesting. Like they gave me a couple warnings. They banned a couple of my videos, but I never got a strike for any of them.
They
And
must
then,
have
I
been
think
watching.
2
They must have been
days
watching. I
Yeah,
mean, look,
maybe. And I was just hit 15,000 subscribers. I was really proud of that because I've been working on this channel for almost 4 years, and you know, just now feel like I'm making a dent. Or you know that whole slogan, like be the change you wish to see in the world. And it was always a cute bumper sticker until one day it was just eating at me. It was just eating at me so much, and I knew, you know, I've been investigating for 15, 17 years, but never did anything with the information. And I have a background in directing and acting, and I'm an editor and a graphic designer, so I'm like, I can easily make a show. And it just ate at me until I did it. And
now your show's
now
a
I'm,
big
you know,
comedy. For people who don't know, you do kind of comedy with your show. I thought that would be better insulation
Right.
against censorship. It's harder to say this person's hate speeching when you're actually mixing it with comedy and you got your dog and everything. And you got to 15,000, which is no
Right.
small feat. But Yeah, I mean, so why don't you tell people about WOOZ News, your show? Like, you still have it on BitChute, correct?
It's on BitChute, and it's on Rumble. Well, some of it. Rumble has actually banned some of our videos, and it's on Odyssey as well. BitChute has been great. They haven't banned any of my videos. The format of the show is basically like the old format before it became like Capital Land, and maybe one day I'll get back to this format where it's like a 20-minute format of it's like a clip show. It's like Tosh.0 meets like Jay Leno, and we were just covering clips of that week or that subject. And it is, it has a live studio audience, which is not a real studio audience, but I try to make it as real as possible. It's just it's gratifying for me to kind of turn the tables and laugh back at them. You
Yeah,
know,
well, look, nobody else has taken January 6th down as you have to such a nuanced degree. And even recently, there's a
no
new
one.
development. No one has come close. The amount of hours you put into it, it's unmatched. And I highly recommend it because this is what's needed. This level of deconstruction that goes past counter narratives and theories and goes right to, hey, this is what the camera shows. This person, for example, Ashley Babbitt. Ashley Babbitt's death scenes, when you go through it frame by frame, it's not at all what they reported. It's clearly what would you describe it as a stunt, right?
I don't know if I use those words, but let's just take the words of somebody who's standing next to her, who came out last month and said that Ashley Babbitt is a crisis actress and that she faked her death and used a squib in her book bag to create the blood effect. And those are Taylor Toronto's words, who was put in jail a week later. Don't know what his whereabouts are, or anything else regarding that, but when you have somebody standing next to her and he's saying the things that I'm saying, which is completely obvious at this point, the medical examiner should stop changing the method in which these people died because, for the first couple of weeks it was that she died of a gunshot wound to the jugular, and then they changed it that she died of a gunshot wound to the left anterior shoulder. But anybody can see when they roll her out on that gurney to the ambulance, I believe it was on MSNBC, at 3 p.m. exactly, they could see there's no wound to the left anterior shoulder, but yet they're applying pressure to her neck area. And she's clearly still alive. She lifts her head up. She lifts her eyebrows up. She's still alive. Yet the medic just declared her dead in that room. When all the cops were just standing there, not doing anything, and letting all these protesters, like, fiddle with her hair and pull things and move things around her.
Oh yeah, that was not how you would expect real first responders. And you mentioned Taylor Toronto. Yeah, he was there and he
Hmm.
confirms that was theatrical blood.
Yes.
And who was the other guy? Who was the one that put their hand on Ashley's neck? You went over this in the first video. Who went outside later and
I
showed his
call
hands?
him. Oh well, okay. There's a couple people who were touching her. The one who showed his hands was Thomas Barani, which he just goes down and taps her, and that's it. And then you had other people like who I called Data, but in the community his name is Sparrow. In real life his name is Young Kim, and he's the one who comes into action. He's kind of pulling things from her hair and moving things about her. And then the other guy is who I call Parrot Blocker. His real name is Bill Keene. He identifies himself as a medic, and he's pulling things out of her hair as well, which it's just so strange, the areas that they're fiddling with on her. And yet all the SWAT's just watching all of this go down. But the more important story is, why did those cops, I call them Fredo, Vetter, and Cop 2, they're standing there blocking this entrance to the house, which is where Michael Berg just came from, and they get this command to leave, and that's when all three of those officers just leave, let them break down these doors, and then Ashley Babbitt tries to go through.
Yeah, choreographed. I think it's a good way of describing it.
Yes,
And to me, when I
yes,
look at
I
Ashley
believe it was
Babbitt,
choreographed.
I'm like, look at that backpack. That is 100% like it looks like it's filled up with some kind of padding so she could land on it and not hurt herself. That's what it looked like to me. Um, Now, do you have any idea if it was possibly if parts of it were filmed in advance, or do you think it was filmed concurrent during?
People have asked me that, but I would I would actually bet my life that it was filmed exactly as it was happening. One, we could see the clock, but two, Jaden's footage, John Sullivan never hit stop on his camera. That's why there's a time code on there. We follow him all the way from outside, from the scaffolding all the way inside. He never cuts. So that's happening in real time.
Okay.
No doubt about it.
Fair enough. Well, that's what I would have expected anyway, and that would explain a lot of things not going right, because if they had more time, it would be a little more polished. But what you were pointing out were just the clear and obvious inconsistencies, at least obvious to people who don't have a political agenda in seeing this thing a certain way. And when it comes to the 888, or sorry, 889 angles, what is the new development here from the 21 minutes? Like, what else have you uncovered for people who haven't seen it yet?
Well, it starts at the very beginning of the day. It starts from the moment that we follow the Proud Boys to their photo shoot on the east side with all of our major photographers. And then we see exactly how this unfolds from obstacle 1 all the way to obstacle 6. And of course, there'll be more obstacles in Act 3. But the timeline starts from the very beginning of that day to right before they go in, which is 2:12 p.m. And so we could see the cops letting them in. We see them let Landon Kenneth Copeland in, who I call Bull. We see the cops clearly letting this stunt guy in, who's going to be he's the one wearing the beanie and the red and blue shirt. But we could clearly see them bringing him in, and the stunts. And then we see the stunts that he will perform, and then we see him just get up and leave. And so it's we have photo shoots going on. The melee and the mayhem is all happening while Trump is still speaking.
Right, that doesn't even make
these
sense
people don't
chronologically.
Get there. It's over, and it makes perfect sense. I mean, his speech was delayed by an hour. And at that time that his speech is delayed, we're already kayfabing it out. Obstacle 1 and 2 have been breached.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And he was there behind his shield.
I believe he's still speaking when obstacle 1 and 2 are breached.
Okay.
It's not so much later. His speech ends, I want to say 109, but then he leaves the stage about 114 because he's dancing to YMCA.
Yes.
All these very homosexual playlists. If you watch the director's cut, we kind of break that down. But if you're just watching it for the first time, I recommend just the hour and 18-minute version. And then if you want to go back and watch the director's cut, you can, because it's very ADD and it does go off on quite a bit of tangents, and we don't really get to the meat and potatoes of the January 6th event until at least an hour
Watch this on a big screen
to the director's cut.
Right, and
which is exactly why I cut it, because I just felt like I just felt that it needed to have its own version.
Well, I sent out that version to my newsletter list here, and this is
director's cut.
Oh yeah, I sent the one that says Act 2, 889 angles. It looks like this one was first published on September the 3rd, and it's on BitChute here as well.
Okay, yeah. The September 3rd one's the new version, the one that I would like people to watch first.
Yep, that's the one I sent out, and I love the fact that it explains a lot of things. It answers a lot of my questions, like, what about people who weren't part of the PSYOP? You know, were they conspicuously...
Like Alan Hofstetter?
Exactly. Why don't you explain their interaction with the people who are obviously part of it?
Well, I mean, I've only talked to a handful of what I would call organic people, and they all kind of confirm the same thing. You know, they get there and either they were with someone and they kind of got into character. They were noticing like people were getting into character. It just didn't seem like real life. But most people I talked to, they were like, something's weird. Something doesn't add up here. And I know that feeling because when we had Occupy Los Angeles, I went to it because, I mean, one, it was just a couple blocks away from where I live, but I go there and I'm thinking, like, this is all real. But, throughout the night, I'm like, how? It just, you have people that are trying to get other people to, they're like agent provocateurs, they're instigators, and these are the people they're going to get in jail. Now, I can't speak to the fact of these other paid protesters that are going to jail. I believe they have their own individual contracts, if you will, like Jacob Chansley, and a lot of these people who are inside the Capitol aren't even going to get a visit from the police or the FBI. So it's very interesting to me. Oh, it's not so much interesting anymore, but it's quite obvious the people who they want in jail, and that's people like Alan Hofstadter. Alan Hofstadter set up, created the first anti-lockdown protest in the country, when this started in California. So I can see why all these informants were swarmed around Alan come the next protest. And these people that he thought were his friends turned out to be just that.
Sure, that's the pattern. It's controlled opposition where if they don't create the opposition, they co-opt what's already there. And that's kind of what we see here. And a number of these characters are very shady to me. We got Eliza Schaefer. I saw Cernovich on your video.
Shady.
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 Alex Jones. And
Shady.
Enrique Terrio from the Proud Boys. I think he got 22 years. Originally,
I mean, he's not even. Yeah, but it's like he's been an informant all along. I mean, that's where all those Kyle Rittenhouse and now these new Trump did nothing wrong T-shirts come from. They came from Enrique Tarrio. I mean, and he comes out and he says like he made these shirts. I mean, he's not even there. He was banned from D.C. It's all part of the show, man. It's all part of the show.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I would love to let these people know, if any of them are listening, that there are consequences for these actions. You may not have to deal with it here on Terra Firma, but you will have to deal with it at some point. Your soul will have to deal with it. There are ways to get off that karmic wheel, perhaps coming clean. There's still time, but I guarantee you there will be consequences for your actions.
I've been thinking about this lately. I mean, we're talking about lies and conspiracies to lie to the multitudes and put them in a state of deception. And this is, I call it the lie world order, but to me it's unconscionable that they can actually do this and sleep at night. And I'm like, where are the crisis actor whistleblowers? They must be getting some sweet deal because nobody talks.
Well, there was one who came out the same day. His name is, I believe, is John Barry. And he came out. He said he was a crisis actor and that he was paid to do this. Haven't heard a word from him since. One of the last videos he posted, he said he was in hiding. Now, we're going to cover that in Act 3. I don't know if that was a warning, if that was organic. It felt real. It felt organic. But we can have the audience. That can be left up to the audience. But as far as I know, he's the only one. Now, I understand why people decide to become paid protesters. One, the money is really great. Two, if you happen to have a warrant for your arrest or pending criminal charges, you can assure that those charges will just go away. So it is definitely incentivized. But the show, your job does not end after the 6th. Okay? I have people coming to the WOOZ News Telegram who are like, I was in J6. Thank you for telling this story. Here's my story. Please get the word out. God bless Alan Hofstadter. I'm like, wait a minute. These characters are in Act 3. Like, I have a nose for who's who. So there's some bad apples up in my Telegram group trying to convince me.
Yeah, I think so. And someone even in the comment section here Truman says, my local Trump-loving conservative talk radio host will not comment on WOOZ News videos and banned me from his Facebook page. Well,
there you go.
Yeah, this is definitely information that's relevant and necessary to understand the big deception, but the people who are so plugged into the politics are blinded by it. It's almost like a religious fervor that we're trying to confront with this.
Or they're a part of it. This thing is so much deeper than I think anybody could expect it to be, or wants it to be, or dreams it could be. It goes down to such a local level as well.
Okay, you know what? This is another point too. Is it wasn't like January 6th was planned the week before. I examine predictive programming extensively. What's one of the things we do on this channel, and as with 9/11, you find hints of events that are going to happen in the future, and I can find
Sure.
predictive programming referencing the date or the number 16 going back to Waco when they were raided over
Mm-hmm.
1.6 million rounds. And that number is repeated again and again. And then
Yeah.
Trump launched his
Yeah.
campaign from Waco. It's like, okay, this was a long time planning.
Yeah. I mean, just take a look at the Illuminati conspiracy cards. That shit ain't a conspiracy no more. I mean, this stuff is planned at least a good 10 to 30 years in advance. The minor stuff, like, the Ray Epps and the Enrique Tarrio characters, yes, that might be somewhat, new. The scriptwriter comes in and is like, okay, what can we do? Okay, we'll get these people on Twitter to comment about this, and then we're going to run this story on next Tuesday. And, oh no, we're going to go live with the new vaccines on Monday, and then Trump's going to get out of jail. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, if people don't think that their lives, that's the problem with this, is that I used to be one of those people that would just get my conspiracy fix, my doom fix, my doom drip, on Twitter or Godlike Productions back in the day. And I just realized what it was doing to me. And I was just living in this constant state of fear, but also thinking, like, someone's going to do something about it, and not really getting in touch with myself or what I could do to shift this.
Interesting.
And so it's such a distraction from the soul, the individual's, like, life purpose. Because we already have, like, the real world as it is. We got to work, we got to do this, and then everybody's addicted to their phones and Netflix and whatnot. And then you pile on the political theater. It's like Reality Housewives of D.C. And people think that's real, and it is real on a sense that, yeah, that mandate's going to come out. Yeah, that bill's going to be signed. But it's like when you vote, or when you give your fear, your attention to these things, it becomes more and more real. It's a collective consciousness. And what you got to do, it's like with Freddy Krueger. You just stop believing in him. You just walk away and you put the attention on yourself, and then he just disappears.
No, that's a great way of describing it, because I look at the blue pill reality as a dream world, and nobody wants to wake up they're comfortable. But those who have a conscience begin to wake up, and they take the red pills, which actually turn the blue pill dream into a nightmare. So the red pilled are actually living a nightmare. They're given a steady diet of
Yes.
fear, this doom drip you speak of, and that's not any closer to the truth. And that's one of the big tricks of their trade of keeping people locked in. And just
Yes.
like in Nightmare on Elm Street, if they let the fear take hold, their dream becomes a nightmare. And that's where most truthers are lost.
I would like to comment on that, because I'm realizing something. There's a reason for it. If you stay stuck on the hamster wheel, you can expect more of that fear of and that's going to just transmute into your everyday life. Now, there is something to be gained by becoming awake, and you can take that, what you know, and never stop learning is the key here. Never stop learning, never stop growing, Yes, I do think it's important for people to be awakened to see who these characters are, but I also think it's very important for people themselves to be awake to who they are and their purpose in this life. And if you think your purpose is working a 9-to-5 job, coming home and getting your doom drip from Twitter and, keyboard warrioring it out and then going to bed and starting it all over again, you might have to come back and learn all those lessons again.
Yeah, I
So
agree
it's
with
better
that.
to do it in this lifetime. It's better to do it in this lifetime as much as you can.
Well, I look at the screen and, everybody is plugged into this thing, but one of the things that really has occurred to me is that we have our senses that are then correlated by our mind and we figure out where we are. But now the screen has almost become another sensory apparatus where it has to augment every single experience. And it doesn't have to be that way, but it's become the default. And it does get people into these
Yeah.
cycles where, I see people on Twitter who are terrified of nukes. They're terrified of what's going to happen when some power mad dictator presses that button. And then I have people who are terrified of direct energy weapons now. And it's just like the current
Yeah.
fear. And I'm not falling for these current fears. I want more information and facts first. And as with January 6th, if you're
Yeah.
looking for like actual, real factual support for what they claim about these deaths and how it really happened, you're not going to find it. The more nuanced you get, the faker it gets, as you've exposed.
Yeah. Yeah, and two things I'd like to say. One is that we have a brand new death as for 4 days ago, which now brings the death toll to 18. And then second, if there was anything that Yeshua was teaching his fellow man and woman, or Jesus, other than love and compassion, it was to not fear. Fear is a cancer. Fear can be necessary to transmute that to take action, or you can always transmit the fear, or you can stay in fear. I'm not saying like fear is bad. Fear can be necessary. But if you stay in that realm of fear, you'll always be there, and it will produce in your life, whether internally or externally.
Irrational fear. There's
So I'm
irrational
not.
fear and rational ones, and many of the ones we're told to have turn out to be irrational. And I think that they do have a deleterious effect on someone's immune system, on their worldview, which gets really darkened if you buy
Sure.
into all of it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that, directed energy weapons is now like becoming such a household phrase when I remember all the California wildfires were being set up by these directed energy weapons, and no one was talking about it. No one was picking up the story. Maybe Dutch Sense was, but that was about it. So I'm always weirded out when these alternative truth channels are all speaking the same kind of language. And by the way, not only myself, but countless other people have sent Act 2 to all of your favorite alternative news channels, you name it. They have at least received Act 2, and we haven't heard back from Nathan. No one will touch it. And
Wow.
I can understand why. It will blow their cover,
Yeah, I
So
would like to know,
the
Tim
right
Pool,
will.
Tim Pool, what do you think of everything wrong, or what do you think of WOOZ News' work? You're right, they cannot confront it because it undermines their entire false paradigm that they're propping up.
Yeah, I heard Mindy. What you got to say? Hodge twins. What you got to say? Nathan, Steven Crowder. Where are you at? Nope, not happening.
No, they're all so caught up in this story, and I wonder sometimes, are
Are
they
they
so
caught up in it? Really?
well, are they so insulated they don't know it's fake, and are they kept sort of like on a need to know basis, or are they all just
If these people don't realize that this is fake, do you really want to be following them to get your news?
That's another great point. If they're either a dupe or an agent, why would you follow them?
That's how people are like with Trump. Or when you bring up Epstein or Dershowitz or any of the other bills that he signed, it's like, oh, Trump didn't know, or oh no, he was banned from Mar-a-Lago in 2001. Where'd you get that information? Like it's just like these. It's like the script that these people are. I'm just gonna not continue that sentence because that was not in the spirit of compassion. So,
Well,
and this
right.
has really been, you get frustrated and you're trying to wake the frickin' people up, and you just have to be like, hey man, just show a little bit more compassion. And so when it comes to any of these J6ers and these crisis actors, like, hey, I have compassion for y'all. I had a dream about Taylor Hanson 2 days ago. He knew who I was and I knew who he was, but somehow we were in the same house and we had to live for like 24 hours in a house, and we just didn't talk. And I kind of wish in my dream that I had said something of some kind of level of compassion, like, hey, I love you, bro. I understand why you do what you do. There's still time to turn around, and if you decide not to, that's fine. You'll still have to meet. You'll still have to have the same life review, or not the same life review as mine, but you'll still have to have your life review, and you'll still have to, deal with all those things of, when you pass. Or you may have to deal with them while you're on terra firma. That's the thing, though.
Right.
So.
Well, this is such a big line. So many people are invested in it, and it's amazing to see people who will just will pretend it doesn't exist, and eventually it's going to be very clear who is supporting it and who isn't. And I think it's important to send the video to people who should at least want to give it a fair shake. And if they don't, it's just tremendously revealing. Commenter Kelly Dawn asks, in your opinion, are the cops real, or were they crisis actors at J6?
I think it's mixed. I think it's mixed. We can clearly see, I've been able to determine who's a real cop and who's not. Not all of them, but obviously people like Dilly and some of the, like the front line of cops, like Side Ponytail and look at the 4 cops that are basically protecting Obstacle 1. And we've already walked past them changing into their SWAT gear when we follow the Proud Boys over to the east side, and that's that moment where Angel Wash is cause she's an organic person, she's asked to leave. It's a free country, it's DC, but they ask her to leave, and she does. But luckily, she and her husband and what's his name? Not David Grossman. Oh, there's so many reporters and cameramen. The one who testified at the Capitol hearings. It'll come to me. But luckily, we have their footage of seeing these background SWAT changing into their costumes. But yeah, people like Mike Fanone are real cops. I believe that there's a pool of background actor cops, and then you will have your real cops kind of mixed in with them.
Yeah,
the
that makes sense.
The people who take down. If you watch that scene at the end of Act 2 when Hunter Allen Epke is kicking in the windows, and those cops that tackle him, I believe, are real cops. But the cops behind him, anybody can look at them and be like, these fat cops, these are cops? And the way that they stand there, it's like, I have a really keen sense of body language. I have a background in acting, and thank God for that, because body language is key. And you apply so much of what you've learned from other false flags, and you just apply it to this. And that was a tough one to swallow. Was one, some of these cops are actors. That was a hard one to swallow. And 2, some of these people like Elijah Schaffer and Brendan Gutenschwager and a lot of these alternative photojournalists that always seem to be at every single one of these events and get the exact footage that they need to capture to make a headline story are always there. I always wondered that, but it wasn't until this 2.5-year investigation led me to believe that they're all in on it. And again, I understand why. And I have compassion for them, and it's not too late to turn around.
So it's like a closed set, and some of the actors play as cops. And you brought up your background in acting has helped inform your ability to analyze what you're seeing. And for me, it's my background in video editing that really gave me the ability of the discernment to see through some of these glitches. And I think that's a very interesting take, that your background in acting lets you see it. Like, for example, one of the things that even prompted me to start looking at the news closely was the so-called victims with no sign of real mourning. It just seemed like they look like they're happy because they're collecting a check.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you even go back to Jesus' time when they gave him the opportunity to be released because the sentence fell on that holiday, and they brought up the murder of Barabbas, and then there was Jesus, and they asked the people, who should we release? Well, we know that they had people going around paying the people that were present to chant the name Barabbas. And it just goes to show you that paid protesters have been around since Jesus' time.
Right,
And
right.
of course, the government, your favorite government, murdered one of your favorite people, and now these people are chanting for more government. Whether it's Biden or Trump or whoever the fuck puppet they put in place, you're still begging for more government. This is hardly a country anymore; it's a corporation.
You know what? This is
and they're just going to keep repeating. They're just going to keep repeating this division like they have for thousands and thousands of years, and people keep buying into it. And you would think with everybody waking up and going through this red pill journey that they'd see through this, but it kind of makes sense as to why they've got everybody kind of like the Q movement people, the people that have been exposed to conspiracies, why they've got them like pigeonholed, and then they can control the narrative further.
yes.
So that's
yeah,
not
absolutely.
to say that all of these. It's not to say that directed energy weapons aren't real. Of course they are, But it's like, when are we going to go back to the old stuff like Pearl Harbor or the Gulf of Tonkin or the Liberty or 9/11 or fluoride or chemtrails and vaccines? Like, whatever happened to those topics? Now it's just coming out every day. It's like last week was directed energy weapons, and then this week it's Obama being gay, which, I mean, we all knew that.
Yeah, that's not even new, but you make a great point, and I've commented on how a lot of quote truthers have become current thingers. It's the current fear. Like last month it was the children that are being trafficked. Now it's the missing Maui children. Next month there's going to be some other group that they're going to be advocating for, and it just seems like they've been
Right.
on this never-ending succession of causes, and that's probably part of the strategy that the elite are using now. I think it's part of this
Yeah.
age of information where they're drowning us in a sea of irrelevance, where the truth is out there, your truth is out there, we found it, but how do you make it relevant to all of the people who are swimming in just mis and disinformation?
Yeah. I mean, was that a question for me?
Well, it's kind of a rhetorical question. It's like we're doing it as best we can, and honestly, your content has consistently made it to the surface. The fact that you got booted off YouTube almost doesn't matter in my view. Everyone here listening is very familiar with your work.
It matters to me. I cried about it. I mean, say what you want in the comment section. I'm a big boy. I don't care what you say. But I did cry about it because I've worked so hard to get these views organically. No one helped me. And I've spent 3.5 years on WOOZ News, but 2.5 years just on the Capitol project, and have only now asked for money because I'm facing eviction, and want to get Act 3 out there.
15,000. You had 15,000 on YouTube in today's climate, and that's very
That's
difficult.
true.
Look, I mean, like I've been YouTubing since 2016, and I haven't been able to maintain a channel because they target the type of content that we do. But no, it's a huge loss. It's like losing a business. It's having your kiosk burned, and I totally try to
Yeah.
support anybody like your work who is doing the work, and that's what you're doing. And the
Yeah.
government is actually censoring you. It's not like it's YouTube's terms of service. I consider this to be legit censorship.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's nothing new. They're trying to censor Jesus.
Well, yeah, exactly. This is the lie world order, and here you are, one of the preeminent January 6th truth tellers. I have a couple of questions from commenters here, if you have a few more moments.
Yeah. Oh, please. This is fun. You're really good at what you do.
Oh, thanks.
And maybe at some point you can help me figure out how to get my damn channel back.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know, people are like, just create a
yes.
new one. It's like, okay, because I have the time for that.
Yeah, this has got to be taken up. I think this is a bigger thing than just a channel being replaced. We're looking at, I think, legitimate censorship. And yeah, I'll definitely be looking into this because I'm putting effort now into my own new lawsuit against YouTube because it's a side story, but they don't play fair. And I put a link in the chat. It says support WOOZ News, give, send, go /WOOZ News so people can help
Yeah,
support
please
you putting
do.
out part 3.
Well, I've seen other people like Steven Crowder fight YouTube. Again, I don't know how legit that is, but if they can do it, why can't we do it? And I totally just cut you off while you were trying to pimp out my Give, Send, Go page, which is ridiculous of me. Please repeat that again.
Yes, givesendgo.com /WOOZ News. And I put a lot of links in the chat, and yeah, you're really absolutely great at editing, and your commentary is really
Thank you.
it's hilarious. And for people who haven't watched it, it's just so nuanced. You might I mean
Yeah.
I can't reiterate how you're so precise that there's no doubt about what you're saying. Your analysis, it's
Right. I'm still waiting for somebody to come back and refute what I'm saying. Any frame, refute it, and I will make I will change it. If you can prove it and refute it, I will change it. Just
excellent.
like in Act One when I said that Adam Gray was fake arrested, and then I went back in Act Two and I said that he was fake arrested, but it was at the George Floyd riot. I'm not afraid to be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. It's an ongoing investigation. That's how this works.
Yeah.
But yet,
Uh-huh.
to this date, no one has refuted any of that. You know, either people love it, or they'll accuse me of poisoning the well. Honey, that well was poisoned years ago. Keep drinking it.
Yeah, they poisoned it when they threw in the scapegoat Ray Epps story and had Tucker Carlson saying, "Hey, this is the truth. Ray Epps made it happen." And if you believe that story, we're supposed to believe that the riots were the consequence of agitators who made these people lose their minds and do this stuff. That's not how reality works. It's insulting that they think they can
Exactly.
pass that off as an explanation. A couple of my favorite scenes, one of them was when Roseanne Boylan got trampled and she had the flag that said, "Don't tread on me." Like, that's got to be a literary flair by whoever wrote the script. Like, that's got to be an inside joke.
Right. Right.
Okay, I have a
I,
comment.
I, I don't want to say anything about ORB because that's Act 3 territory, and I don't want to give any spoilers away.
Okay. Okay, now, someone asked a question here about outside of January 6th. This is from Not Shocked. What does WOOZ think about the space race?
Define space race.
I guess they're referring
Or
to
we,
the space program in general. Off topic in a way,
I
but
mean, when I think of space race, I think of like Russia versus the United States versus China to get a man on the moon. I don't believe, at this current point in my life, I don't believe that we ever put a man on the moon. I'm open to that, if it's whether it's true or not. I'm open to all of these things mostly. I tend to not think so much about space. I tend to think more about the people who are pushing for these things, who may or may not own Twitter.
yeah, yes.
The character, I'm more invested in the characters involved and who they are and their origins. I think origins are very pertinent into decoding a story. But the space race, you know, I don't know. How do you get humans past that Van Allen belt? So it's this. How about this? Let's just put it this way. When we're this much invested in AI and going to space and doing all these things with space, but yet we have brothers and sisters. I live in Los Angeles, and it is just tent city. So when we're putting all this money into these programs, when we have people all over the world that are suffering, you know, come at me when we talk about the human race, and then I may have something to say.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
But it's just, they're taking all of your money and putting it into whatever program they want, and then they get you to either praise it or chide about it, and it's just a never-ending trap.
Now, origins. You mentioned origins as being very pertinent here. And for example, Elon Musk. I look at his origins, and I'm like, is this a real person who did all these things, or is he a composite character?
Exactly.
And I'm like, he looks like a little
Exactly.
Von Braun, a little Willy Wonka, a little Iron Man, and
Yeah.
they put this neat package together right out of the imagination of Werner von Braun. And then he's now in front
Yeah.
of X, which to me is just almost like a reference
Right.
to the cross of Constantine. Like, it's just too theatrical for me to buy into it. But interesting
Right.
question by someone in the comment section, and great points.
Could I say something really quick that I feel that whatever I just my
Sure.
response to the question of the space race may have sounded rude. Thank you for your question. It was not intended to be rude or what's the antithesis of compassion?
No, I know what you mean because
To,
it's not
to shame,
technically.
it wasn't to shame you at all. It's not to shame you at all. Thank you. Please ask any question you want, but that's just how I feel about it when we're so caught up in these other things, and yet, we don't take the time to think about all our brothers and sisters who are suffering. And people who do have jobs are still suffering. They may just be suffering in a different way.
That is a fascinating point you bring
So,
up, though, because we often hear talk about the fakery on the world stage, and it has consequences because they are diverting resources that could be used to help real people into creating this fantasy.
yes,
So there are consequences to the
yes,
way they're allocating the money they take from the brainwashed, and they redivert it into brainwashing instead of helping people. And yeah, there's definitely a cost, a human
yes,
cost to it all.
yes.
Okay,
You had
Mom with
another question?
Sons says, I sent 33 to Venmo on WOOZ News. Okay, so we got a contributor.
Holla.
Appreciate that, everybody.
Was her screen name Mom with Sons?
Yes, Mom with Sons.
Oh, I bless you, mother, and your sons, and thank you very much. I've come to, I've kind of been having this very strange spiritual dark night of the soul thing since April 16th, and I have come to realize that these numbers, like 33, a lot of people in our movement would see that and would be very suspicious about it. But I've come to realize that these numbers may be a lot more than what we've been led on to believe. And that perhaps these numbers, just like the Bible, has been used and edited and slandered and adulterated.
Mm-hmm.
Which version of the Bible would you like to read? I would like to read the true version. Oh, we don't have that. All right, I'll take the King James one.
Oh, yeah, good with the numbers. Okay, so do you have like the number 33, for example? Recently, I watched this video and this man was describing how to go to space, it's Mach 33 or 33 times the speed of sound, and he took it to be allegory for or transcending the material realm, entering the celestial, and the number 33 is often associated with that theme of ascension or rising. And I see these numbers all the time. Sometimes it's just like
Yeah.
code, but other times it seems to have like a more spiritual or esoteric side to it. What do you think?
And well, absolutely, these people know this information. They know the relevance of these numbers, but because I believe these people do evil things in this incarnation of their life, like I said, these numbers, you sure follow the numbers to a degree. Don't get crazy with it, or do whatever you want. But I do believe there's some relevancy as far as the numbers that they use. Now, if you see this all the time and you think that because Mom and Sons just sent me $33 that we should start bitching at her that she's a Freemason, I'm going to think probably not. So sometimes it's okay to look into some things, but sometimes it's okay to pull your head out of your ass too.
Oh yes,
Some people think that because
there's a
some people think that
superstitious
because
element
WOOZ
that
has a circle on his eye.
yeah, exactly. That's
I mean,
Illuminati. Illuminati
right.
confirmed. Your
People think I'm
dog.
Illuminati because my dog has a circle on his eye, and I'm like, okay, clearly you've never seen the Little Rascals. And if I was Illuminati, I don't think I'd be on food stamps right now. So at least make it make sense.
You know what? A number of people have said that you have a very suspiciously low subscriber count. And one thing that you see with people who are given a pass, who are part of this thing, is they don't have a ceiling. They don't have anything blocking them from getting tons. And I see it all the time on Twitter. These accounts, especially the QAnon types, all they're doing is they're keeping that cult going with this hopium, hits of basically menthol-laced red pills. And they're never censored. They're never shadow banned. And then someone like you,
Right.
you put the last few years into this project, and
Hmm.
15,000 is quite an achievement. And if they weren't suppressing it, it'd probably be 10 times that.
Exactly. I mean, this is 15,000 over the course of almost 4 years. Really, I sat at 700, maybe 750 subscribers for most of that time. When Act 1 came out, I literally went from like 700, 750 subscribers to 14,000 subscribers in one day because of Act 1. And obviously I went dark between creating Act 1 and Act 2 because I'm so ADD and just, I don't like to get caught up in all the drama and the replies and do this, do that, and just the finger pointing and the witch hunt. It's so distracting, and I just want to do my work, and, I don't need to say that shit's going down twice. I just need to say it once. So the idea of continuing this show for the rest of my life is not appealing to me. I don't want to keep singing the same tune over and over, And after Act 3, I plan to go right into the David Crowley case, and we can talk about that a little later if you want, which is extremely important, maybe almost as important as January 6th to me personally. It's a personal story.
Yeah, I would be
and then
interested.
I'm not quite sure what to do with WOOZ News. Like I still have dreams of making it in Hollywood. And I would like to, I'd like to have a family someday. I'd like to meet someone someday and maybe have a garden and not schlep in front of this ancient iMac and this computer and pulling my hair out every day trying to edit these videos and wondering if I'm making a difference.
Well, I say you are.
While everybody's just bitching in the background.
This is
so,
big.
It's just so annoying.
Because look, the fact is, it took like at least 10 to 15 years for the truth about 9/11, like the reality of it, not the narrative, not the spins, but for the truth of 9/11 to get out, it took years. And what you did, just what you gave to the January 6th quote truthers is the actual truth, not some narrative line that's going to steer them in circles. So no, actually, I think this is progress. So it's a pretty big deal. Northern Girl in the comments asks, how can we find him? What is the easiest way to find you, since YouTube is not reliable?
You can go to BitChute and type in WOOZ News. I would say go to Rumble. I definitely want to build that account up, but again, they could ban Act 2 any day because they have. You'll see that Act 1 is not on Rumble because they banned it twice. But you can go to BitChute. It's bitchute.com. And if you just type in WOOZ News, one of my videos should come up. We're on Twitter. It's WOOZ_news. We're on Rumble. Just type in WOOZ News. On Odyssey, we're on WOOZ News. And then I have a Telegram channel. If you just search WOOZ News, you should be able to find it. I'm in the works of creating a website.
Okay.
I'm hoping this is a good
I'm
idea.
surprised about Rumble. I mean, Rumble, but you know what? They're so built into the right-wing ecosystem that you're a threat to their major story.
Exactly.
Diana South in the comments says she calls it crumble.
Yeah. It's just a way to feed all these people into this. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody on Rumble is a bad guy. No, of course not. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that if you think you're going to Rumble for free speech, you may have another thing coming.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have part 3 coming, but you have a lot of skills that came into this that you are already doing. You're already an actor and a writer and everything. So you're still going to continue to do stuff after this. What is this David Crowley project that's coming up next?
Well, I would like, because that seems to be the main question, is when is Act 3 coming out? And the answer is I don't know. Like, I have this eviction notice. I don't know if I'm going to have to get a job tomorrow. I don't know if I may have to leave my place. Like, I still have this old computer. So there's so many things in the air. And now the YouTube channel has just been banned. So most of Act 3 is done, but there's still quite a few more months to go. And I'm not gonna lie, when that channel got banned from YouTube, it hit me so hard that I'm just like I'm having feelings of wanting to quit, but I don't think I can because I don't think I'd be able to live with myself. I think I would regret it. So it's coming. Hold tight.
Well, if you're interested
David
in
Crowley,
this, if you're interested in doing periodic updates, it'd be a good way to keep everyone here. And this channel, we do have a cross. I think I think we do kind of have
Yeah,
a good
call me
cross section
anytime.
of so many people that are familiar with your work. So yeah, we'll
But
continue this as you progress forward. But
by the way, what do you go by?
well, Infinite Plane
What
Radio
do I call you?
is the what people usually call me IPS for Infinite Plane Society.
Okay, IPS. I'll try
Yes,
to remember that. IPS. Ips.
IPS exactly.
What's up, Ipsy?
And yeah, and you actually and the whole thing is we have what is
Yeah,
mostly
call me anytime, please.
okay.
I'm happy to talk about this.
Yeah, we're definitely working on networking enough with people who see things from the outside the partisan bubble, who actually look at the framework of media objectively. And I feel like if enough of us
Good.
network, all of your listeners, all of mine, eventually we're going to create a sizable, what I consider to be a parallel media that is just lie free. And I want to enlarge that. And I think that what you've done is a huge part of it because January 6th it's a 9/11 size spell.
Sure, yeah. Luckily, it didn't really pull that much at people's heartstrings like 9/11 or Sandy Hook. So it was a great way to get in and show how these false flags are created. But, I mean, I agree with what you said. It's also collective consciousness. This is very real, you know, so never stop learning.
Yeah, never stop
And so
learning.
David Crowley,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
oh,
please.
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say we were
Try,
saying that
you
the
could,
settled journalism of today is like no, any new facts is like conspiracy theory, but no, you also have to. I think you have to always leave it open to new facts. Always keep investigating, and you can always learn more about an event. It's never a closed case the way they would have it.
exactly.
Now on to David Crowley, if you can introduce us to that, which will be in the future after everything else with Act Three.
Do you want me to talk about him right now?
Yeah, I mean, if you can, if there's anything you
Yeah,
want to share with
yeah,
us here.
yeah. Well, you know, I think some of your viewers may remember a trailer back in 2012 called Gray State. And this was a trailer that David Crowley was creating organically until people like the We Are Change movement and the Ron Paul movement and the InfoWars movement kind of backed him. And he became a household name during that time in 2012 and going into 2013 as well. And anybody can go and look at the Gray State trailer on YouTube and see what this film was going to be about. And it's about all the things that we're experiencing now. It's definitely, he's either a prophet or was a prophet, or he's just very intelligent. And I think maybe a mixture of both. And his ultimate goal was to sell this piece to Hollywood to create it into a feature film. And he had an active deal here in Hollywood, and he was planning to move out here to Los Angeles. And on January 17th, 2015, the Apple Valley Police Department found him, his wife, and his 5-year-old child dead. And by the end of that night, they called it a homicide-suicide, meaning David Crowley snapped. This project got to him so much that he snapped, and he killed his wife and his 5-year-old daughter and then killed himself. And I've been investigating this case for over 4 years now, and this is one of the reasons why I started WOOZ News, because if anything ever happens to me, I'd want to make sure that somebody was coming to bat for me, because there are so many injustices in the world, and for me, this is what pulls me the most, is this story. And this is my impetus. He's kind of like my muse in a way. But I
Gotcha.
have so much respect for him because of the content that he was creating and the voice that he was leading for the people. And, you know, the crime scene is, to me, it looks staged in the sense that the bodies were placed there. But the media doesn't really, I've never seen a news report that talked about the fact that David's head is missing, or that Kamel's head is missing, or that both of her hands are missing, or that David's right hand is missing, or that his daughter's entire right arm is missing from the
Wow.
crime scene. And there's a complete lack of blood at the crime scene, just like with Ashley Babbitt. And, you know, David was right-handed, and his right hand's missing, and the gun is laying on his left side, or to his left, near his left hand. And the bodies, because I have most of the through FOIA requests, and some of these diligent, hardworking people in the background. You could go on YouTube. They're called A Gray Stage, and they also have Justice for David Crowley and Family on Facebook. I believe it has 11,000 subscribers, and they make videos at least once a week talking about the case. There's a dedicated group. I'd say about maybe 8 to 10 of them, and they publish videos almost every week. And they're telling me now that they're getting strikes on the channel. And so when I'm done with Act 3, I might have to pay a visit to Apple Valley, Minnesota, and do some real detective work. And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because I want to put together a team of whether you're a lawyer or law enforcement or medical examiner or in the field of forensics, or I don't even care if you're a crime psychic or if you have the skills of remote viewing. There haven't been any new developments on this case, and so I'm willing to hear whatever anybody may have to say about this, and anybody who could help me and this team of people who've been trying to get this case reopened for years now. The evidence is so alarming. It's so in your face, and it's so gruesome. It is such a gruesome crime scene. Whoever these people are that did this to them.
Right. Well, I'll familiarize myself more with it, but I'm looking at headlines and it says,
Sure.
for example, there's one from New York Times and it says, "Review: Gray State behind a filmmaker's madness." It's like you have this posthumous libel that they do to try to cement whatever it was that they were saying as the truth.
They went as far as to cement it in 2017. Werner Herzog, the producer, and director Eric Nelson created a documentary called A Gray State, the same name as his project. And they made a documentary interviewing different people, and the whole film is how David went crazy and killed his family. They never talk about the crime scene or any of these like big or small details. They just create the narrative that David did this. They went out of their way to do this, and that's suspect to me as well. But anybody can watch it. They don't put any forensic information in front of that camera. It's just clips of him and compiled interviews of people that are fingering this guy.
Right.
And a lot of those are those people he was trying to get away from. If
Right.
you read his Day One journal.
Okay, that's
and there's a great website.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great website that hosts, all the crime scene photos and the autopsy report and even his Day One journal and phone bills, bank records, you name it. It's all compiled on this website. I'm gonna pull it up right now in case anybody is interested. It's like WordPress. I think it's like Graystage. thegraystage.wordpress.com. And you kind of have to finagle about the website to find I think it needs to be better organized.
What I'll do, I'll put the URL in the follow-up newsletter. Like after we're done here, I send out a newsletter with a link to the podcast and any links you bring up. So we'll link to your Give Sun Go. We'll link to this link that you're referencing here, so people can follow up. And and
definitely Act 2. Please spread the news of Act 2, because I do talk about at the end of Act 2. I do talk about David Crowley, and I also talk about Alan Hofstetter. These are two heroes of mine, and I want to. I may have come back to this earthly plane to correct some injustices in this world. That may be my purpose. And so I'm wondering what your purpose is. I don't think it was just to come here and to consume this fear. Methinks it's something much bigger than that. And y'all need to give yourselves credit for being the spiritual and divine beings that you are, and not this, simple, meek, and mild flesh suit You're so much more than that.
Well, I consider Infinite Plane Radio, I call this mind war inoculation. And the regular listeners here have the level of skepticism needed to see through the media matrix. And I'm happy to have you on the channel anytime moving on in the future. And we will
Yeah,
definitely
please.
support. I
This
put a
is so
link to
much
your
fun.
PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, and Give Send Go. And I put a link to this
Thank you so
Act
much.
2. I think everyone needs to watch it because this is what we call auto hoaxing, which is, it used to be a pejorative. If you called something fake, oh, that shooting's fake, they would say you're just automatically calling it a hoax. And auto hoaxer was a
Yeah.
pejorative, but I was like, you know what, we're right. So if you're not
Oh,
auto
do you know
hoaxing,
fakeologists? Do you know fakeologists?
oh, yes, we speak frequently, yes.
Yeah, he introduced me to that term. And still to this date, I'm trying to find one event that happened in the news that was organically occurring. And I'll let you know
Yeah.
if I ever come across such a story. But I guarantee all the experiences in your personal lives are organically occurring. And so I think people have a separation with like the world of Hollywood and politics and this Twitter feed that they're downloading every day, and then they have their own lives. You know what I mean? So the things in your own lives are real, are true. They are organic. And
Yes,
so I think that's the bigger picture here.
the meatverse and the
Well, it's
metaverse.
not the bigger picture. There's many big pictures. Yes, exactly. You just said it.
The meatverse and the metaverse, and it's
That's
a
what
key point here because I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to push people into letting the metaverse filter their meatverse, their real experience, and that's where you lose out. I think what you're suggesting is that you lose out on the purpose of your life if you're living through a filter,
yeah.
or and
Yes.
the screen has become that. And so I appreciate your objectivity and your research and all the hard work, and we will definitely touch base again very soon. I've had you on here for about 120 minutes. Anything else you can think of before we
I mean, no, I think we covered. I mean, Act Two, Gibbs and Go, and David Crowley, and I think we talked about Alan Hofstadter as well. But still hear more about that in Act Two, and please share this video. And if anybody is a lawyer out there or knows how to get my YouTube channel back, please hit us up. My email. Oh yeah, let me get my email out. It's WOOZ News, WOOZ News, obviously NEWS at protonmail.com. If you're a lawyer, email me. If you have a background in law enforcement or investigative reporting or the medical realm or a private investigator, please email me as well because I want to start to build this team, this David Crowley team, and also try to open up the conversation about what to do about Alan Hofstadter because he's going to be sentenced on October 13th, and he's very positive because he's a positive guy, but I have just a terrible feeling about it, and so I may have to rally up some lawyers and some people to undo this injustice. So if you feel like you want to do something about these injustices that I have mentioned, please reach out to me.
yes, I will
And
definitely.
thank you so much, IPS, for coming on. This is definitely one of my favorite interviews that
Wonderful.
I've
Well, I'm
done.
glad to have you on here. A lot of people were looking forward to it, and thank you for taking the questions. And we will definitely do a follow up here very,
Thank
very
you.
soon.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
All right. Have a great day, Rafa.
And,
Thank you.
God bless you.
Likewise. All right. We all
God
appreciate it.
bless you, sir.
All right. Thank you. All right,
Okay,
everyone.
good
That
night.
is Rafa from WOOZ News, and I will be in touch with him via Twitter here momentarily. Thank you all for joining. I want to say thanks again for all the commenters and for anybody who supports WOOZ News' work. I put a link below if you want to support him on Give Send Go. Look, he just had a 15,000 subscriber channel pulled, which is it can be devastating. It really can be. Um, we've been through it so many times that we're used to it. You know, we have the experience of fighting YouTube firsthand, even in the legal realm. And if we can get anybody to back WOOZ News in any kind of legal strategy to get his channel back, we will definitely support that. So anyway, thanks everyone. This is Auto Hoax or GTFO, Chief Crow and the Flat Earth Worms. Subscribe to the newsletter at infiniteplane.live, and I'll get you this interview and all of the links that he mentioned and his email address.